Welcome to the Let's Get Vulnerable podcast. It's your host, Dr. Morgan. I'm so excited for this episode. We are going to talk about something that is so key to healthy relationships. We're going to talk about boundaries. Boundaries are hot. Check out the hat. And we're also going to talk about pacing, relationship pacing. And this is so key. It applies really to all relationships, but we'll talk about it in a romantic relationship context. And I just want to say hello. If you are on YouTube, hi. There's so many new subscribers on YouTube. And also, if you want to go check it out, all you have to do, I think we'll have the link in the show notes, but then you can also just type in Dr. Morgan TV YouTube and it should come up. So we're trying to be really good about putting all the episodes up there for those of you that are visual. And it's kind of fun. You get to see the studio, and it's like we're out to coffee and we're having a chat. So hello if you're on YouTube. And like I said, today we're talking about boundaries and we're talking about pacing. And I want to start with boundaries because this is just so key. Number one, we got to change your mindset about boundaries. Okay. Because a lot of you have beliefs that boundaries are tough, that they're really hard to set, that nobody is going to like me if I'm setting boundaries, right? Like you get stuck in the people pleasing BS that keeps you in relationships that you actually don't want to be in. Okay. So boundaries are so necessary. If you want to have a relationship that lasts for a long period of time, you need boundaries. Without boundaries, we build resentment. We end up not liking the other person. We can find ourselves getting angry, annoyed, and ultimately we want to pull away from the person that we don't have boundaries with. I think another thing to remember, once again, boundaries are hot, is that we actually need distance in our relationships in order to be attracted to the other person and to want the relationship to continue. Esther Perel, one of the top relationship thought leaders of our time, she's amazing. Esther Perel always says, desire needs a bridge to cross. If we don't have boundaries, a lot of us develop codependency, enmeshment, where you become like the other person. Okay. So, in order to truly maintain attractiveness and a desire, even in friendships, a desire to be friends with someone, you have to have boundaries. Okay. So now that we've tweaked your mindset a bit, like, okay, boundaries are required for healthy relationships. They're a necessary part of any healthy relationship. Now I want to talk about, what do you do when you're working on setting boundaries for the first time? The first thing I want you to know is that you can't beat yourself up, that you probably had a lack of boundaries because that's what you learned to do. So I would have you get really curious with yourself of, wow, where did my lack of boundaries come from? So this is step one, get really curious. Was it the models that you saw growing up? Was it the way that people interacted with you? Maybe your family had zero boundaries and they didn't give you any examples of how to set healthy ones. But just be really curious, like, where did I develop this from, right? Most of us did not have great examples of boundary setting growing up. So that's step one. And then step two, I would have you do like a boundaries inventory. I would want you to get really clear on, do I have any areas of my life right now where there is resentment, where there's some anger building up, where I'm unconsciously kind of pulling away in a relationship? Because I guarantee you, if you ask yourself, where's the resentment? Where am I pulling away? Where is there some anger in my life? You're going to get keyed into, oh, that's where there's a lack of boundaries. So do that next. You're asking yourself, where is this happening in my life currently? Okay. I hope you're following along, writing this down. Step 3, after we did awareness, after we did the inventory, step 3 is I want you to ask yourself, what does it look like to have a healthy boundary in this area? So picture your ideal scenario. Like, what would be different? For example, let's say this is with your partner, and maybe you've been dating for 3 months and you're spending every night together, or you're spending 6 nights a week, and you're just noticing that you're kind of losing yourself. You're not feeling like yourself. You're starting to fall into people pleasing because you didn't do relationship pacing, which I'm going to talk about next. Okay. But let's say you have that awareness, you know, there's some resentment building. Now I want you to imagine, what would your healthy boundary scenario look like? So what would it look like if there was healthy boundaries? Maybe you're spending 2 nights a week together, but build the picture, get clear yourself. I think a lot of people do this wrong. They realize that they don't have boundaries, but then they try to communicate to the person before they have awareness of what the healthy boundaries would look like. And then it's just a mess, because then you're like, well, I don't know. And you're wishy-washy. No, get super clear. What is the relationship look like, or the situation? What does it look like with the healthy boundaries? And then we're moving on to step 4, which is where we're going to communicate. And I promise you this, it is not as scary as you think it is. You're building it up in your head. It's not as scary as you think it is. Okay. Remember this as we're preparing to have the talk. We say, guess what? If I want healthy relationships, that includes boundaries. And the people that are meant to be in my life that want to build healthy relationships with me, they want to know what my boundaries are, and they're actually going to be relieved when I communicate them. So once again, mindset reset. This is necessary. This is helpful. It's good for me. It's good for the other person. Okay. And then as we're preparing to have a conversation, you want to get clear on how you feel about things currently, and then what you need to be different. So you would invite someone to have a conversation, and then in that conversation, you say something like, hey, because I care about our relationship, I want to be really honest with you. I love this positioning because it's true. If you didn't care, you just would pull away and sabotage, and you'd have an unhealthy relationship. You do care. So you're willing to have hard conversations, right? Like, let's normalize this. So you're saying to your partner, because I care about you, I need to be honest with you. Okay, next thing you say is, we're using I statements. We love I statements. I feel resentment that I have been spending 6 nights a week with you. I'm starting to notice I don't feel like myself, and I'm not taking care of myself well enough. Notice how that was all I statements. It wasn't, well, you make me spend 6 nights a week at your place, and you suck, and you're draining my energy, and blah, 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 right? We took ownership over how we felt. So I statements. And then I'm going to transition into, I've thought about this a lot, and I realize what I need is to spend 2 nights a week with you instead of 6. What does that bring up for you? How do you feel about this? So then at the end, I'm getting curious, and I'm allowing my partner to process this, right? And in reality, you could pause after this is how I'm feeling, and then you'd want to hear what's coming up for them. But that's the basic framework, right? I set the position of, because I care about you, I want to be honest with you. I acknowledge how I'm feeling, what I've noticed, right? And then I'm stating what I need is, and I'm giving them the opportunity to know this is what I would need in order to make this better. So there's your communication of boundaries framework. But I guarantee you this, for 98% of you, it's actually not about that framework, even though I think it's super helpful. You really internally need to shift your beliefs about boundaries and shifting your beliefs about yourself and beliefs about relationships. Because if you don't have healthy beliefs about self and healthy beliefs about relationships, no amount of scripts are going to help you when it comes to boundaries. So I'm just throwing that out there that for a lot of you, you're going to still need to really do deep inner work to make boundaries easy. Okay. So I hope that was helpful. We talked about boundaries, we talked about why you need them. And now let's continue this conversation, and we're going to talk about relationship pacing. For those of you who have read the book, here you go. I'm showing you this on YouTube, Love Magnet. Get off the dating roller coaster and attract the love you deserve. You may remember me talking about pacing in the book. And if you haven't read the book yet, I highly recommend it because there's a lot in there of helping you do a lot of the work, and then also giving you tips on, okay, what does it look like to build a healthy relationship, right? And one of the things I talk about is pacing. Of course, we have to talk about pacing because so many people get this wrong. And the metaphor that I use, because your girl loves a good metaphor, okay, is that you are stepping into the emotional investment pool as you are getting to know someone. And this pool is just like a normal pool. It has, the 1 feet, 2 feet. Actually, I don't know, where do pools usually start at? They start at like 2 feet. Anyways, it gets progressively deeper, right? Until we've got the 9 feet, 11 feet, and you better know how to swim if you're on the deep end of the pool. And this emotional investment pool is important because you have two people who have to decide that they want to get in the pool in the first place. I see a lot of people make the mistake of assuming that somebody wants a relationship when they're on the outside of the pool and they don't even want to get in. They don't have the emotional capacity to even begin to emotionally invest in a relationship. Meanwhile, you find yourself in the 6 feet, 7 feet, 8 feet, and you have somebody who's standing on the side of the pool and they don't even want to get in, right? And maybe it's not conscious, it's an unconscious thing where they go, okay, intimacy isn't safe. Hello, classic avoidant attachment style, right? So, as we're pacing, one of the key things is realizing, okay, I want to invest in relationships where it's reciprocal, where if I'm doing emotional investment, the other person is too. That's how we have securely attached relationships. We have people who are investing emotionally simultaneously in ways that feel emotionally safe. I also love this metaphor because it's like, hey, we need to feel emotionally safe. If you don't know how to swim and you don't have any floaties and I'm throwing you in the 9 feet deep, you're going to feel like you're drowning and like you're dying. And that's kind of how some of us approach relationships, right? We don't build the emotional safety so that we can swim and breathe and not flail around in our relationships, right? Like, um, we want to be able to enjoy getting in the emotional investment pool. We don't want this to be a fear inducing experience that makes us never want to get in the pool again. And a lot of us mess this up. So when you are thinking about relationship pacing and you have an insecure attachment style, if you have anxious attachment, your tendency is to go really deep quick. Your tendency is to get to this place where you go, I'm not going to be abandoned. This person has chosen me. And you want them to quote unquote choose you as quickly as possible because of your beliefs about abandonment. And let me tell you, that is sabotaging you because you're not able to create the emotional safety and the secure attachment that is supporting your emotional investment. For example, maybe you don't even know how somebody navigates conflict. You've never had an argument, but here you are promising to spend the holidays together and planning a trip in February, and it's not even November, and you're introducing them to your friends and family, and you're in your mind imagining your wedding, right? But you don't even know how you navigate conflict. Like, let that sink in. You have to gather the data because you're the love scientist. If you've been consuming my content, you know I want you to put the lab coat on. You're the love scientist. You're gathering the data, and you have to be able to gather data that allows you to feel emotionally safe enough to emotionally invest. So that's what's happening with anxious attachment. You're going really quick because you have a belief, if I can just get them to choose me, that I'm not going to be abandoned. What's happening for the avoidantly attached folks? They don't want to get in the pool. They dip their feet in and they go, the water is cold. Right? Like I can make a joke about this because I've been there. I've done that. I've done it, okay? Where it's like date number 3 and they brought me flowers and they were so nice and they were genuinely interested in me and talking about what are we looking for? And then I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm just not interested because I had fear of intimacy. So fear of intimacy makes you get out of the pool. And then you kind of look down on the people that are in the pool. And you're like, oh, but I'm focused on my career and I'm traveling and I'm so productive and I'm so achievement focused, but I'm just not in the pool and the pool kind of sucks. Okay. So that's what happens when we have avoidant attachment going on is we don't feel safe. And unconsciously it's the fear of intimacy, fear of closeness. I'm not a good partner. You're going to let me down. This isn't going to work out. So then why would I even try? Right? So fear of intimacy. And then we're not allowing ourselves to be vulnerable. We're not allowing ourselves to invest. So, what happens then when you have disorganized attachment is you're in the pool, you're out of the pool. You're in the deep end, you're climbing out. You're in the deep end again, you're climbing out. And of course, this is very chaotic and confusing to people that are trying to date us when we're showing up that way. And what happens with secure attachment when we have pacing that is secure, that feels good, that is emotionally safe, is we have two people who know we're both getting in the pool. We're getting in the pool together. And you may not be at the exact same place in the pool, but you're pretty close. Maybe one of you's at the 6 feet and the other one's at the 4 feet. And you know that that's where you are and it feels okay. And you're both able to communicate about what you need, what you want, how you feel about the relationship. You have open, honest conversations about defining the relationship. And overall, it feels emotionally safe. And you realize, oh, we can move deeper into the pool together. And you can also normalize for each other, like knowing that this is how this works, is that people emotionally invest at different speeds. So you may have someone who's quote unquote falling in love more quickly, but as long as there's secure attachment and both people are invested and both people are in the pool and it feels emotionally safe, that's okay. It is okay. You're never going to have people that are falling in love at the exact same pace unless it's a Hallmark movie, okay? Like a rom-com. No. We're going to have people that are falling in love at different speeds. But if you're securely attached, you're both in the pool and you know where you're at and it feels emotionally safe. So how do boundaries relate to this is that, well, if I'm anxiously attached and I'm dating someone who's avoidantly attached, because why wouldn't I? Because that's what I'm attracted to, because it matches my beliefs about love. Just that's how it goes. I need to be able to set boundaries about, hey, I'm showing up in this relationship. This is what I want. Are you able to meet me here? And then if they're not, then you have to realize, okay, it's not safe for me to continue to emotionally invest in this relationship because we don't match up, right? And obviously, I would tell you that if you have an insecure attachment style, whether it's anxious or avoidant, I highly recommend that you work on becoming securely attached. It's going to help you so, so much. So much. So work on becoming securely attached, and then you're much more likely to attract people who want to emotionally invest in the way that you want to emotionally invest, and someone who wants to build the type of relationship that you want to build. Okay. This was a value-packed episode. I hope you liked it. Hope you are able to share it with somebody who needs to hear it. Make sure if you are listening to it that you take a screenshot and tag me on Instagram at Dr. Morgan Coaching. I love to see when you guys are listening to the pod. So let me know. And then of course, if this resonated with you and you're like, hey, Dr. Morgan, I need to become securely attached, got you covered. We have the Empowered, Secure, Loved relationship program that is the exact roadmap to becoming your securely attached self. And we give you support with one-on-one coaching, group coaching, lifetime access to course content. It's everything that you need to really heal and become securely attached. And all you have to do, first step there, just to see if it's what you want, is go apply to the program using the link in the show notes. I would love to see you inside of there. And of course, I hope you love this episode. I love this community. I appreciate you so much. And as always, I'm wishing you high self-worth and great relationships. Until next time.